Hello, and welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This podcast is brought to you by dentalwebcontent.com and New Patients Incorporated. I'm Howie Horrocks, the founder of New Patients Incorporated. Along with me once again is my friend and partner and the president of New Patients Incorporated, Mark Dilatush. Mark, how are you today?
Hey, Howie. Hello, group.
Good. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, first I want to thank everybody who's already chimed in. If you want to chime in with some questions or comments or think we're all full of you-know-what or whatever, just send Josh an email, josh@newpatientsinc.com. You can always reach out to Howie and I. Our email addresses are on the website, but Josh is our program director for these webcasts or podcasts, so he'll make sure your question gets on the docket. So the last couple of podcasts, we discussed the two halves of the dental market, whether or not you believe they exist, why you should believe they exist, and quite a little bit about the overall strategy on how to go after them. The characteristics of each of the halves, how they respond, how quickly they respond, what their return will be into your practice, and several scenarios on when you would use each or when you would go after each half of the market. Now, for this segment, we wanted to go, I don't know if you remember, but the first segment we said we were having a hard time coming up with the very top of the pyramid for the Dental Marketing Mastery Series, that the series is going to be vast. And we really had a hard time coming up with the first thing we were going to talk about, and we decided it was going to be the two halves of the dental market because that's a prerequisite for the rest of the series. Well, finding the first one was hard because there were so many firsts. And budgeting, what your budget should be, how to allocate your budget to the various media types, how to control costs, which media tend to increase in cost and decrease and have long bell curves or have short bell curves, and all those things seem to be the second most important. So we're going to start with budgeting. I'm a dental practice, or the example practice would be a dental practice. It's been in practice for 5 years or more, and they basically just either want to increase or accelerate the process of growth, or maybe things have stagnated and they want to create new growth. Or in a lot of cases, especially over the last 8 years, people come to us and they say, well, I'm working harder, but I'm taking the same amount of money home. And honestly, that's not stagnating, that's losing. If you're working harder and taking the same amount of money home, you're not stagnant, you're treading water, you're going backwards. So if you have a practice that's 5 years in or longer, and you fit into any one of those categories, or even I would go so far as to say maybe you're adding capacity, adding chairs, office hours, dentist hours. You can be in this discussion as well. People ask us all the time, and they say, well, how much is your marketing plan?
I think that's one of the questions we get most often.
Yeah, how much does NPI cost? Right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Here, let's clear the air once and for all for every other segment in the Dental Mastery Series, Dental Marketing Mastery Series. Howie and I, the only marketing budget we have is for our business. It's not for your business. We say to you, you should budget 5% of your trailing 12-month revenues as the low end of your budget, and you should budget 5% of your goal revenues as the high end of your budget. We're not telling you you have to do that, right, Howie? What if somebody came to us and said, Mark and Howie, you have to budget X% of your revenues for your business? What would we say to them?
Well, we would say, you know what? We'll do that. And here's what you can get for that budget.
Right.
If it's not good enough, okay, then give us a bigger budget, but we'll operate within your budget.
Yeah, okay. So here's the point. Mark, Howie, some other marketing firm, some guy named Bob or some lady named Jill, nobody gets to dictate your budget except for you. You're the business owner. A budget doesn't mean what you're spending currently. A budget is not it's just a budget. It's just a projection. It's a percentage of revenues that you plan to spend over a period of time. It doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean you're committing to it. It doesn't mean anything really other than to say, how does this expense fit into my business model? Right? 5% of your trailing 12-month revenue. So let's just go through an easy example. Let's say that last year you did $600,000 a year. 5% of $600,000 is $30,000. That's the low end of next year's budget. Let's say you want to get to $800,000. 5% of $800,000 is $40,000. $40,000 is the high end of your budget. You make those two calculations, where am I now and where do I want to go, and you multiply both times 5%. And that gives you a very narrow range. You should not spend under the low end, and you should not spend over the top end. It protects you both ends. There are many, 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 many dentists out there over the years who have made the classic mistake of starting and stopping. This is why this conversation is at the top of the pyramid, or one of the blocks at the top of the pyramid of discussion. One of the most expensive things you can do when you promote anything is start. So a start and stop approach is bad. And dentists are famous for starting and stopping because, and it's perfectly natural, we're not making fun of dentists or anything. It's just, it makes sense that when you get busy, you don't spend any time, attention, energy, or money on marketing your practice, right, Howie? Why would you do that? If you were busy,
right,
why would you go home on a Friday night and look at your marketing?
Yeah, we don't need it right now. Things are rolling along. We got new patients coming in the door. What the heck?
Yeah, well, might as well save the money, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, put some more money in my IRA and make me happy and make my family happy and everybody's happy, right? Yeah.
Right.
So when it's busy, dentists tend to not pay attention to marketing. When it's slow, dentists tend to panic. Oh my God, it's slow. I got to take money. I have to make a decision like now. I have to do 5 times the amount that I probably really need to do just to restart the growth. So what you end up with is you end up with a start, stop, start, stop, start, stop career. And go back to what I said at the beginning of this paragraph, which is the most expensive thing you can do in marketing is start something. When you start radio ads, it's the most expensive. When you start a new website, it's the most expensive. When you start a mail campaign, it's the most. Everything that you ever do to promote your practice, when you start, it's the most expensive it will ever be.
And the reason for that, I might point out, is that that's when you have absolutely no traction from your marketing.
Right.
It hasn't any momentum yet. You're just dipping your toe into market penetration. You've got a long a long ways to go with that marketing effort, whatever it is, direct mail, radio, TV, whatever. And it's just getting started. And if your expectations aren't in line with that, what's going to happen is that you'll expect a whole bunch of results right away. And that almost never happens in any marketing. You have to be in it for a longer haul. You have to do your expectations way down the line. And that's why it gets expensive when you start and stop. You start and you go, 30 days later, well, no, let's do something else. And that's horribly expensive for the practice.
Yes, it is. It's like paying for the beginning of the bell curve over and over and over and over and over and over again, and never actually getting to the top, right? It's like 27 of your best friends just said, hey, let's go climb the Himalayas. But we're not going to actually get to the top. We just want to try really hard.
Yeah.
So I guess the takeaway here is, if the audience could take it, is have a budget. A budget is not. It's not a marriage. It's not a contract. It's not something written in stone. It's not Game of Thrones where you slit your hands and you shake hands or anything. It's just a budget. You're just saying, I'm going to spend whatever, $3,000 a month on marketing. That's what I'm going to spend for next year. All right. That gives you a starting point, because the next question is, after you figure out what you want your budget to be, is where you spend your budget. And that can be just as an important a decision as how much your budget is. So let me go down a fairly common, our team of advisors at New Patients Incorporated uses a formula. We use a formula that's been tested for basically 26 years. The formula is basically a template. It's a starting point for an advisor to build what's called budget allocation for a doctor's marketing budget. Can you hear me, Howie?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So what that means is allocation is very much like you would allocate your investments in stock. Your investment portfolio manager would say, don't put all your money in one stock. There's too much risk. And that's exactly what you would say when you're investing your marketing dollar. You wouldn't put all your money in one media type. So a classic template or a classic formula for a practice that's been in existence for 5 years or so, has a decent patient flow, and is just looking for additional growth, is to allocate 5% of their trailing 12-month revenues to 5% of their goal revenues, but then take that whole budget. Let's use our example, $30,000 to $40,000. Let's just use $35,000. Let's go right down the middle and use $35,000. You will always take 10% of your annual budget, or you should always take 10% of your annual budget and apply it to internal promotion. Internal promotion are things like a smile reminder, revenue well, demand force, the things that the monthly subscriptions, Yappy, the monthly subscriptions that you pay for that communicate, send texts and emails and reminders for appointments. Okay, they're about $300 a month, right, Howie? Somewhere around there.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, there's your $3,600. $3,600 is just about 10% of $35,000, wouldn't you say? It's pretty close. Okay, so there you go. Your internal promotion is allocated. Now, you can do more than 10 internal. You can go up to 10%. So what else when we talk about internal promotion, Howie, give me some examples of internal promotion.
Well, one is, the old referral brochure. You want to encourage your patients to bring their friends and family in to you, and so there's a printed piece. We've had one for many years. It's gone through an evolution over time, of course. But that's one method of internal promotion. You're promoting to your patient base. They already know you. They presumably like you. You've worked on them. They've given you money, so they're probably very willing to spread the good news about your practice to their friends.
Absolutely. There's a great example of internal promotion. I can think of a classic example, and if you're a dentist listening to this, you're probably going to be shaking your head in about 2 minutes. You'll be shaking it up and down. When was the last time one of your own patients walked into your office with a new set of veneers that you didn't do? They probably walked in with a new set of veneers that you didn't do because they didn't know you did veneers. And they probably didn't know that you did veneers because you didn't tell them. Internal promotion is the act of telling your existing patients all of the benefits of all of the dentistry you do, not just what you specifically have done to them. Your patients don't want to be there to begin with, and they can't wait to go home after they leave. They will only remember physically, they will only remember the outcome physically of what you have done to them. They will not realize the breadth and the depth and the scope of all the other beneficial services that you provide all of your other patients. A 33-year-old is not going to understand the benefits of implant-supported dentures. Not unless you tell them. They may have a mom or dad that lives right down the street that's been complaining about their dentures to their son or their daughter for the last 27 Sunday dinners in a row. But you didn't tell that 33-year-old about the benefits of implant-supported dentures. Why? Because you didn't have any of your budget, or first of all, you didn't have a budget, and second of all, because you didn't have hardly any of it allocated to internal promotion. The bottom line is the best place to promote your new services or your existing services really is to your existing patient base. They always cost the least to reach out to, and they will always provide the highest impact. Would you agree, Howie?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an old saying, but it happens to be true. Retaining or trying to get a new patient into the practice costs you 5 to 6 times more than it does just to retain the ones you already have.
Exactly. Okay, so internal promotion, 5%, 10% of your annual budget. The internet, depending on where you are, 15 to 20%. And then we would, and when I say 15 to 20%, that includes everything. That includes the website, any SEO, social media that you're doing to it, any AdWords that you might want to invest in. So that leaves about 40, 45% of your budget left over. We typically don't like to fully allocate a budget. We like to leave 5% on the back end just in case some really cool opportunity pops up that the office wants to take advantage of, like the church across the street has a church bulletin and it costs $50 a month to advertise in it and you get 9,000 patients from it. Some of those things still do exist and you do want to be able to take advantage of them. So now you have about 40%, 50% of your total budget left over. Where do you put it? And the answer is you put it into your local community in such a way that will either garner an immediate response direct or drive the recipient to your website where you can get an indirect phone call. Now, if you have your internal taken care of and you have your web presence with the other part of the budget taken care of, Howie and I have statistics on what works and what doesn't work for every media type. Believe it or not, doing direct mail the right way is effective in 96% of the U.S. markets. It's actually 0.4% more predictable than the internet because the internet is 96. So what we would do with that extra 40 to 45% of that budget is we would pour that whole chunk into getting as many impressions on the streets as possible to the most qualified candidates as possible over the next year. And we would hope to secure, and when I say secure, what I mean is claim. If I'm a dentist, I want to claim the top 40% of the local market as mine. If you're a competing dentist, you can't have them. Hands off. So what I'm going to do with that portion of the budget is I'm going to reach out to the top 40% of the households within a very short drive of my dental practice, and I'm going to proclaim mine. These are mine. I'm going to hit them 3 or 4 times over the next year with the benefits of my dental practice, the conveniences, technologies, my public relations assets. I'm going to hit these households. I'm going to allow them to choose me, and they can choose me either directly through calling the number on the mailer, or they can go to my website, which many of them do, and they will do more research about me, and they will call me from there. But I am going to claim this center core as mine. That's what I'm going to do with my first year marketing budget. How about you, Howie? What are you going to do?
Well, I think we're on the same page there, bro. Yeah, and this description of what you should do with your marketing budget it just comes from experience. That's all. We've tried all kinds of other ways to do it, and we tried to accommodate some clients who figure that they can get all of their patients from the internet. And we haven't yet met a dentist who's actually done that. So this isn't a try this, try that, hit or miss thing. This comes from 26 years of doing it. And say direct mail's old school if you want, go ahead. None of our clients will agree with you. It's just a matter of doing it correctly and with proper targeting and the right message. And it is the best return on investment you can make.
Yeah, it's and I'll try and draw our listeners' attention outside of dentistry for a second, and I'll list off some websites: Overstock.com, Amazon in the early years, Yahoo, I don't know, Southwest. There's 3 or 4 websites right there that almost everyone, or even Facebook, almost everyone who's listening to this has visited, right? They're very popular websites. And sometimes I think dentists think that they can skip the step of driving people to their website who are local. But that's exactly what Overstock, Yahoo, Amazon, and Southwest Airlines did. They used television, radio, and print media, offline advertising, to drive web traffic to their website. This has been going on around you as a matter of normal commerce for the last 20 years. So if somebody comes to you and says, no, put 100% of your annual budget in, I don't know, Google AdWords, okay? Nobody does that. Even the gigantic companies, the Ford. If Ford could get all their sales, all of their interest in the new aluminum body F-150 off of the internet only, why would you see Ford F-150 commercials on TV? The point is, as a dentist, you're working in a circle, about a 15-mile diameter around your practice. If you're not going to move your practice, you have to claim that as yours. You have to do offline promotion, good online promotion, yes, and good internal promotion. If you are in a market that is at least average competitive makeup, you're going to need to do a combination of those 3 things. What we just presented to you was the right mix the right budget allocation of those three things. And that's what we have for this installment.
Yes.
The next installment will go deeper into budgeting, and we're going to start to peel off the layers of some of these media types. And we're going to start going through don't do. Do this, but don't do this with these media types. Those should really help you. And again, it's all situational. Everything that we talk about is not 100% perfect. This is still the subject of marketing. But we say it all the time. If you could walk into a casino and you had a 96% chance of winning, would you play? And the answer is yes. Okay. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas, and I'll take that bet.
Absolutely. Well, thanks.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back with our next episode shortly.
All right. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by DentalWebContent.com and New Patients Incorporated.